What's up, everybody? It's Chris at Lion Punch Forge. A fun video for today. This one is going to be with the Orion welders, only I'm not going to be doing Orion welding. What I plan on doing is taking these cheap craft store jewelry beading pliers and turning them into a grounding plier for the Orion welder. You can see right here. If you're tuning in, thanks for watching. As always, appreciate that you're here. And if you like these kind of videos, if you like metal smithing and adventure and rocks and faceting, check the little subscribe button down on the bottom there. Hit that little bell notification, it'll let you know when I make new videos. So for now, we're going to be playing with these guys. What I'm going to be doing is removing a portion of the rubber, and then I'm going to be drilling a hole in that. So let's go ahead and get this started, because you know we're here, we've got tools, might as well. I keep on looking up because I've got my monitor and all that. I want to make sure I've got everything exactly the way that I want it, so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to take and cut that rubber right around the outside, and then it should slip off like a glove. Maybe. Careful not to cut your finger. And pretty much you can use any pliers, anything you really want for a grinding clip. I've used a lot of other things. Let's clean that up. And then I have that. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is switch you guys to this and overhead. If I can figure out cameras right. I got a push button camera thing, it's new. So we're going to try and work with that during this video. So I have my pliers. I'm going to set them right there. I'm going to grab my drill real quick. And then I'm going to center punch where I want to drill. One more time. And then I'm just going to go ahead and drill that out. Good little guy. Okay, we're through. And essentially what I'm going to be doing is creating that hole. And the reason for that hole is only something that I can go ahead and fill, put wire in and fill with solder once I get to that point. I want this to be nice and secure. Solder doesn't necessarily like to stick to other metals and that kind of stuff, especially the electronic solder that we're using. So I want to make sure I create a little cavity for that to go into and to hold my wire. So step one done. Switch you guys back to see here. Let me try this guy here. We've got our little hole drilled. There you go. So next part I'm going to do is show you guys what a grounding clip kind of looks like. This is a grounding clip from Orion, straight from with them. It came with the welder. And it's for jump rings. Opens up nice, it's got a good cavity. But basically what we're going to want to do is replicate this and replicate this. So in order to do that, we're going to need some supplies. Already have our pliers. These are just, you know, laying around, whatever. So what we're going to want is some 4mm banana clips. So the 200i3 that I have uses these banana clips as grounding clips. This is what plugs into the machine. If you have an older machine, you might have spade terminals. Spade terminals look kind of like these guys. So depending on the machine that you have will make a difference on which one of these terminals you choose. So I'm going to pick out a banana. Let's go with red. I think red's going to be my color today. So here's a red. Doesn't really matter what color, they all do the same thing. Now I'm going to go ahead and pick wire. So the important part of the wire is your welding. So you're going to want to make sure that your wire is thick enough and the right gauge and the right type of insulation in order to work with welding. So you can get some really thin wire, you can get some really thick wire. This stuff is 12 gauge, 18 maybe. 12 gauge, and it's not very flexible. So the problem is when I'm trying to weld, I don't have this flexibility that I want to be able to move my piece around. Now to fix that, I went with basically the same type of wire that they use with the ones that they make and sell. This is a 20 gauge, PVC coated. It's rated for 600 volts, and it's got a nice shielded insulation on the outside. So I got this from Remington Industries. I think I found them on Amazon, or you can go straight to the website. They're not sponsored by me. This just, or I'm not sponsored by them, I should say. This is just what worked for me. So the other thing you have to worry about with this type of stuff is the length of the wire. You're not going to want to stretch this all the way out and use it across your shop. You're going to want a nice short tool. So I recommend maybe 2 feet, 2.5 feet at most, and that's about what this is. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it. Next supply you're going to need is some wire cutters that have the ability to strip the coating off the end of the wire. So there's this piece, and I'll put this away. Wire, banana clips, pliers, soldering iron. We're going to go ahead and plug this in and have it warm up. Gotta be careful with these, they are hot. Next little bit of, I like using these for just the kind of clean look. I have this shrink tubing that uses a little bit of heat to shrink around the piece or the wire or whatever electrical whatnot that you're doing. I got this one from Ace Hardware. Again, they don't sponsor me, but it's just a heat shrink, assorted heat shrink tubing. It came in a pack of 160 in different size and shapes. So I'm going to be using some of this stuff, and in order to work with that, you need heat. So I have a lighter. Hello. So that is pretty much all the tools that we need, and the last bit of supply is maybe some electrical tape. So now that this guy's heating up, I didn't mention it before, but you're going to need electrical solder. So yeah, you're going to need that too. I'll put a list of stuff that you're going to need somewhere in the video, maybe before, maybe in the middle, maybe after, and that way you know exactly what's needed. So I'm going to just go ahead and strip the end off this wire. I'll buy a dinner first. Yeah. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the other end. There you go. That easy. Yeah, it's hot already. So we're going to switch you over to look. And what I'm going to be doing is put these guys out of the way. I'm just going to go ahead and put a little bit of solder on that wire. And it should flow right onto it, and just going to make all those little strands stick together. Hopefully. Get a little bit more on there. Okay. This just makes it easier to work with. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. I'll grab a little bit of solder and place it on the other part of the wire. I already did that side. Let's do the right side this time. Together. This makes it easier later on down the road when we're working on this to place the wires exactly where we want them, because you don't have to worry about those individual little fellas moving all around and getting caught somewhere. So that is nice and put together for what we want. And so the next step we're going to do is take our pliers and we're going to insert the wire. I like having the wire on the outside like this, and then I'm going to just bend that in. Now Now we're going to go ahead and apply. I have a little vise here. Let's see what you got here. This little vise. That guy just holds my work where I want it while I'm doing what I'm doing, and that way I'm not worrying about trying to juggle solder and heat and holding everything at the same time. So that's helpful. So now I'm going to take the solder. I'm going to just move you guys around so you can see. I'm going to take some solder. I'm going to put it on my little tip here, hold it, and then I'm going to drop it right where I want it, right on that wire and the plier handles. And what I'm going to try and do is fill that void with solder. Sometimes it wants to run right out the other side of the hole, and you just have to put it in, let it cool, run back over it again, put it in, let it cool, run back over it again. Okay, now we have it attached, nice and strong, perfectly like we need it. So when you're doing this the way that I'm doing it, you need to be very aware of your order of operations. So one of the important parts of having your order of operations is once all these pieces are put on here, you can't necessarily put the shrink wrap on there after the fact. So what I'm doing is I've got my first piece on. Next step I'm going to do is just put my shrimp wrap. That sounds good. Shrimp wrap for dinner. Put that right on over. You pick the one that closely mirrors the size that you have, and then I'm going to pick a little bit smaller, and that way, because the shrink wrap doesn't shrink down to as small as you. It has a working size. So in order to taper that, I'm going to take the largest one that fits, cut it to about the length that I want. I'm going to take a little shorter one that fits, and then I'm going to take the shortest one that fits. And I'll just use my knife to cut that about the length that I want, and then I'll put that on too. Because you want your tools to look nice, right? I know I do. So what I end up having is something that looks like this. So you have a layered, and then I'm just going to go through and I'm going to use my fire to start shrinking that up. And then once I have the shrunken up about like I want it, it's not going to be too hot, but it's going to be a little bit warm for me to just kind of press it in place, get it where I want it, and then if I need to, I can shrink it down a little bit more. If for some reason it doesn't shrink down more, what you can do is just kind of twist it, hold it in place, and it's going to be a little bit warm, but what you're going to see is once that cools off, it's going to actually turn more rigid. So the rigidity is going to hold it all in place. So I just twist it a little bit, hold it in place, squish it down, and then I can add a little bit more heat and do the same thing. And I'll have a nice looking bit there that shrinks the way that I want it to shrink. All right, so there's end one. End number two is your banana clip. That's a rubber band. Your banana clip. So a couple things here with the banana clip. Remember we talked about order of operations. So first thing I'm going to want to do is pick out the shrink tubing that I want, and what I want it to do is be able to fit into the back side, the end cap for the banana plugger. It's got to fit in there, and then I'm going to pick one just slightly larger to go around that. And let's go ahead and cut those. Just pick a length, doesn't matter, as long as it covers what you want it to cover, and should be good to go. So I have two lengths, two different diameters. I'm going to place those on first. Smallest one first. Largest one. The back side of the banana plug. I'm going to stick that on because this little piece, once it's soldered in place, is going to be protected by that guy there. So what I'm going to want to do is throw that all the way down, get all the pieces that I want on there first before I do the soldering here, because this is going to be a larger diameter than I can fit all that other stuff onto. So order of operations. Now we're going to go ahead and solder on our banana plug. And to do that, I'm going to try and put this in the vise so that, let's tighten this down a little. These guys back. I'm going to try and tighten this so I can hold what I'm working on. Okay, so I have my wire, and if you can see that or not, let's see. Yeah, you can probably see that. I have my wire sticking up here. I'm going to bend that up, and I'm going to kind of push it back into place with, you know, a rod, kind of like this guy. What that's going to allow me to do is fill that area full of solder and capture that wire. Forgot to give you a disclaimer on this video that by no means am I an electrician, or do I know what I'm doing, but this is what I have done, and it does work, and the way that I've done it works, so I figured I'd go ahead and share. All right. Okay, now I have that wire in place. Probably don't need my soldering iron anymore, but what I am going to do is let that cool for a minute. Pull it out. The electrical solder like this, the low temp solder, does cool relatively fast, and I'm going to give it a tug. It's good. Now I can cut off that excess wire that I had laying around. Now I have my banana plug on there. I'm going to take a little file, and I'm going to, if there's any rough areas sticking up, it's going to be hard to get that sleeve to go back over this banana plug. So I'm just going to go ahead and file it down in case there's any high spots. Okay, now that we have our banana plug in place, looks like it's a good fit. I'm going to bring our end cap on there. I'm gonna press it down into place here. So what I'm doing is I'm taking this guy here, and I'm just gonna go ahead and press him down into something hard to press it into place. Sometimes you need to take your pliers and kind of help it a little bit. Last portion is going to be the heat shrink. And we have our two heat shrink sizes in there. First one's going to be our big one. Let's go ahead and separate those two. Let's shrink it a little bit, and then we can do that. I rotate it in. The other thing that this heat shrink tubing does is it adds a little rigidity to the wire, so I don't have a weak spot like you see with like Apple iPhone cables. Where does it fray? It almost always frays where you plug it in. So what this is going to do is kind of help eliminate some of that potential fraying. It's an insurance policy, if you will. That is it. We now have our banana plug all ready to go. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and test out and see if it works. So I'm going to need to move the camera a little bit and check this out. Don't need that. Alright, so as you can see, relatively simple. Did not take that long to make a custom grounding clip for the Orion Welder. You can pretty much do whatever you want. I've done some with cross locks, I've done some with round nose pliers. If you can think of it, you could probably do it. You can buy those little alligator clips, make some like that. It does not take a whole lot of very technical equipment or material in order to make yourself a new grounding clip. Plus, it really does come in handy because not every single job that you do with the Orion or welding or any of that kind of stuff for jewelry or manufacturing, not everything is perfectly addressed with just one tool. So being able to make your own tool, being able to take maybe some junk pliers, inexpensive pliers, and turn them into something that works for a welder or for another tool, all it does is increase your versatility and allows you to further your creativity and further your confidence in what you're doing, because it does a lot for your confidence if you can make your own tool to fit into and fix a problem that you might be having in your own shop. So that's all I got for today. Thanks for watching, and I'm going to throw a kind of a supply list up here of things that you can grab. Add some Amazon links and that kind of thing. So yeah, I'll make a little spot in the Amazon store to buy the things that you need to buy for all this fun stuff. Appreciate you guys watching. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that little subscribe button down there at the bottom, little bell notification. As always, I appreciate you, and be amazing.